Thank you for tuning in. I want to talk to you all about the phases of your brand because I have a lot of clients come to me unsure about whether it's the right time to invest, and I want to create a video to help alleviate some of that stress. There are different phases of your business and there are different phases of your brand. And so when you're first starting out, you do not need to be spending thousands on your brand or your website. Maybe a template is the best option, or doing it yourself, or whatever. Maybe you don't need a custom logo from day one. You can use a Wordmark logo with just a great font that aligns with you. So there are lots of solutions to approach your branding in a slow pace that feels good to you. And that is what I want to share with you all today. The phases of your brand and at what phase you can start thinking about investing. There are 4 phases to your brand. Phase 1 is when you have an idea. Okay, so this is the stage of your business where you have an idea, you kind of know who you want to speak to. Again, you're a service provider, so this might be you want to speak to a certain group of people and offer coaching packages or a digital course or a group program. You start your Instagram page, you start posting, you're getting comfortable, but this is not the time to invest in a big ticket, expensive website or professional brand. You are still figuring out who you're speaking to. And it's important that you recognize that unless you have that audience that you really want to speak to and you've niched down enough, investing in branding is going to be a waste, because in that first chunk of time in your business, you're going to still be figuring out a lot of things. So it's just not wise to invest at that time. I do have 2 suggestions for you, though, what to do for your brand as a whole during phase 1. So as you're figuring things out, phase 1, you want to pick your business name. And I have an idea or a couple tips around that. I worked with a business coach, Kelly Track, at the beginning stages of Sunday Studio, and she is a big proponent of just using your name. Again, if you're a personal brand, just going by your name and then having a tagline underneath saying coach, mentor, intuition guide, like whatever your tagline is could be more of a descriptor of what you do, but just use your name. Now, you might be saying, Jenna, but you're Sunday Studio. If you believe that the name is the best way to go, why are you Sunday Studio? Well, I picked more of a fanciful name. And the reason being is I had some complications around my last name. My last name is Tilgis. It's really hard to say. I was also getting married and in the process of switching my last name and deciding all of that. And so I went with Sunday Studio. It is okay if you are feeling drawn to create a more fanciful name, but here are my suggestions if you're going to do that. Google this name. Google it and make sure that it is unique enough in your industry. That is why I, instead of doing SUNDAY Sunday Studio, I went SUNDAI to carve out a space for myself SEO wise in Google. So whenever someone's typing Sunday Studio, pretty much all of my stuff is popping up. So that was why I did that. So definitely Google your fanciful name. Make sure your domain name is available, and you can go to GoDaddy.com and type in that domain. So if your name is like plume.com, like you have this plume as your fanciful name, type that in and make sure it's available, and make sure your Instagram handle is available, or whatever social media platform you plan to use, whatever handle that is available. So pick your business name. That's your checklist item number 1 for phase 1. Your number 2 checklist item is start following entrepreneurs that inspire you. Notice the people that are expanding you and inspiring you. Notice their brands. If you are on Instagram and you're scrolling and you love the way this quote looks, from a business you admire. Start saving that. If you're on Pinterest, start pinning those ideas. It is never too early to start gathering some inspiration for your brand. And you might be surprised. Like, you might, by the time you're ready to invest in branding, have a whole mood board of images available because you have been sort of saving and collecting some fun ideas that have inspired you over the time of phase one. Okay, so phase one, you're figuring it out. You have your idea, you're testing it. Awesome. You're doing great. Okay. Phase two is that it's time to get some sort of website up. It's website time. So at this phase, you probably, you have your idea, you know who you want to speak to. You might have even signed a few clients, that you're just booking through word of mouth or referrals or on Instagram. So this is great, but it is time to get something formal up to declare to the world what you do, what your offerings are in detail, to share what you want this business to be publicly and professionally, because there will get to a point where your referral network will run out and you need to rely on some sort of online presence to show all of your services, what's included in your services, to give people an idea of who you are and to provide them with some real value, some level of a freebie, a webinar, a video series, a blog, some sort of way to communicate that you know what you're talking about and that you have value to give to them. So you do eventually need a website. That is my strong opinion on that. But you do not need to pay for an expensive website. Phase two is just about getting something up that's professional. If you are intrigued by the idea of a website template, you can go that route. If you want to completely do it yourself and learn how to design a website or use a template that's built, in Squarespace or on Shopify or Showit, you can do that, but you need something up and running. So during phase two, if you're building a website, there are going to be other things that you need. So here's your checklist for phase two. You need your website. You're going to need copywriting. You can do it yourself or have it professionally done, whatever you're comfortable with. You'll need a color palette because it will just have to happen as you're building your site. You will need some sort of logo, but here's my caveat. You do not need to be spending money on an expensive custom logo during phase two. What you need is a wordmark logo. So just text only your name in a beautiful font. A font that feels aligned to you. It can be bold and modern. It can be more traditional with some little serifs, but you need some sort of consistent way that your logo shows up on your website and on social and other places that your name appears online. So you will have to develop some sort of wordmark logo. The two other things for checklists for phase two, you need your photography at this point because you're building a site. I have seen sometimes it be okay if you just are using like photos that you kind of have that were taken on an iPhone. But I will underscore and underline here that getting professional photos is one of the easiest ways for you to raise your confidence in yourself as a business owner. I have seen it transform so many people when it's similar to like a website design, and it really up levels your website design if you have these beautiful professional headshots or images that were taken of you. So my suggestion would be if you can't yet afford professional photos during phase two, you should be actively saving for that. And you should be saving it's probably like $1,000 around that to get a professional images done of yourself. But pay attention to some of your local photographers because oftentimes photographers have mini sessions in the spring and in the fall where you can sort of like select a 15-minute slot and show up and get a few really great photos. And that could be that's usually around $300 or so, $200. So that could be an option for you. But photography is important. And then the last thing, during phase 2 is your social media. Relying on some sort of template or set of templates is key here, because if you build your website, whatever you design there, colors, fonts, photos, that should match your Instagram. When you get to phase 2, your professionalism comes through consistency and cohesiveness. So if someone's on your Instagram feed and they click over to your website and it feels totally different, you're going to come across as more amateur than maybe you even are. Maybe you have all these skills, but it's just not going to read as professional. So if you're going to have a website, you also kind of need a little more of that professionalism on Instagram or whatever social platform you're using. Okay, phase 2, done. Phase 3, this is big time branding. That's phase 3, big time branding. So at this point, you are either doing this full time or you are about to take the leap to do this full time, and therefore you plan to have a full-time income. And when you are at the point where you're planning to have almost a full-time income, that's when your investment in professional branding actually is affordable, because you're probably making $3,000 a month, $5,000 a month, when you're starting out. And so you spending a couple $1,000, $3,000 on a brand and website is not that big of a deal to you as if when you were like compared to phase 1 when you're just starting out and you haven't even made $500 total, So phase 3, that investment's a lot more comfortable. So that's good. But that too, at this point, you may want to niche down even more. Your audience, you may have learned a lot through working with people, and you have a new approach to who you want to talk to and how you want that reflected in your design of your website and of your brand. And oftentimes when people come to me in phase 3, what I hear a lot is, I want it to look a certain way, but I can't get it there, right? You have this high level of aesthetic, or you see other sites and you're like, oh, I know that I'm that good and I want my site to be that good, and just feel really aligned to me, but I don't have the skills to do that. And that is the point, that tipping point when hiring a designer is important, because they have those skills, right? So just like you would outsource anything, this is the time to outsource those skills. So during phase 3, what does big time branding mean? It means a professional logo, which can either be a wordmark logo or have an icon or illustration next to it. It usually comes with submark branding, a secondary logo, and other graphics and icons and illustrations that really broaden your brand. So your brand is more than just like a color and a typeface. Your brand now it's textured, it's warm, it feels full. And phase 3 is where that happens. You will get your color palette refined. Your website will have to be either redesigned or just refreshed, depending on how big of a pivot this brand overhaul will be. This is definitely the time to have professional photos taken if you didn't do it in phase 2. And you probably have more marketing materials that you'll need to update, like your PDF designs, your freebies. You might have a services guide, social media templates, maybe whatever. So you'll have other marketing pieces at this point in your brand that you're going to be thinking about, podcast cover artwork, like things like that. So phase 3, big time branding. Congratulations, you've made it. This is very exciting. That's phase 3. But there's a phase 4, which I'm sure you're like, what the heck? I made it. What on earth is phase 4? So phase 4 is when you need to refresh your brand. And this usually happens a few years into your business. It depends on how quickly your business evolves, how much you need to refresh, but this will happen a couple times in the lifetime of your business, like without a doubt. And this is really a wonderful thing. What this means is that you have gained more and more knowledge, expertise, and you're probably niching down even more into an audience. So maybe you were doing intuition coaching and now you want to focus on first-time moms. Okay, what changes to my color palette, to the images I use, to my copywriting will change when not only am I talking to just women and their intuition, but now I want to speak to first-time moms and help them use their intuition. That next level of niching is where you'll probably have to refresh again and again and again every time you pivot. What other things that might happen in phase 4 is you just have new services. So you kind of have like a bunch of new pages to build. Phase 4 might be, I want to launch a podcast. And then while I'm at it, I'm going to refresh a few pages on my site. So phase 4 can either just be a slight refresh or a brand overhaul, but there are a few things that you need. Here's your checklist for phase 4. The most important thing in phase 4, when you've been in business for a few years minimum, is you just need some fresh eyes. You just need someone to come into your business and say, oh, you know what? You have all the pieces here. Let's just use this extra pop of color. Let's streamline this sales page a bit. Have you thought of new photos? Are these like a few years old? And you just need someone to come in and look at your brand from a new perspective. And so that is obviously when a designer, that's the value of hiring a designer, is that they can come in and see things fresh. And then second thing, like I've already mentioned, for your brand is that your website and logo will probably need some sort of refresh. Maybe not your logo, but at least your website will need some sort of refresh as you decide to pivot. So there you have it. Those are the 4 phases. I again just want to underscore and underline that you should invest in your professional branding when you are in the right phase. You do not need to feel that pressure that you need to invest thousands of dollars on day 1 of your business being started. That is unrealistic. You do not need to do that. And if you need a designer to tell you that, to make you feel better, here I am to tell you. Do it in phases, do it slowly, and refer back to this video to kind of go through the different phases once you get there to kind of remind yourself what will be important. There are times when your website's really important. There are times when it's not. And you're doing great. Whatever phase you're in, keep on going. I'm your little cheerleader over here on the internet. And that's it. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.